All right, I want to first of all thank all you guys for coming here today. Your presence is very much appreciated. You could have been anywhere or somewhere else at your time, but you decided to come here and listen, and I hope add to the conversation about reentry. I want to start off by saying my name is Todd Jones. I will be MCing. I was asked to do this a few days ago by my best friend, who is the pastor of this church, Raymond Monk. I call him Curtis, so if you hear me reference him as Curtis, that's just the name that I grew up calling him as. And he asked me, would I be willing to MC this event? I'm like, no. And he was like, no, Todd, I think you should do it because I can't really give a perspective that you can give. And his reasoning for that is, I was just recently released from prison after 25 years. I went in when I was 15 years old in 1996, and I was just recently released 8 months ago. And he was someone that did, and then, man, he stayed with me throughout that time. And you don't really run into people like that stay with you for days or weeks. And for a quarter of a century, to have that friendship, that meant something to me. And for him to see the evolution of me from a child to a young man to the man I am today and feel me worthy and deem me worthy of this, rather, I think that was pretty special. So I'm here. I have no idea what I'm doing, but we just finna tell the truth, all right? I would like to start off by introducing the panel members. In no specific order or anything like that. I'm quite sure if you guys are familiar now with the supervisor, Ms. Shaquana Taylor. She's here in the representation of resources and services through Milwaukee County. As a quick synopsis of her on the bios, and just as a heads up on the bios, guys, I'm gonna pick and choose because some people was loquacious with their with their bio and the words rather. Ms. Shaquana Taylor has a true passion for her community. With several years of experience working with her community in Milwaukee, she's elated to have been elected as the 2nd District County Supervisor and will take this opportunity to relentlessly work hard to get results. Making changes in our neighborhood started long before she came into the elected official of office. And it says in here so much about her, but the one thing that stands out is that it says, despite challenges despite challenges that the board has faced related to time and salary, she still believes that the county supervisors will have the ability to be change agents for the better of Milwaukee County families. And I think that is a tremendous thing. And lastly, it says she knows it will take a lot of hard work, but she is committed to the process. And I think therein lies the uniqueness of her, is that she knows it's going to be hard, but yet and still she's willing to be selfless enough to get into the fight. So I think that's incredibly special, and I appreciate you for that. Next, we have Judge Milton Chiles. Thank you for coming and being here with us. He's here in the capacity of understanding and recording your criminal record. A brief synopsis of Mr. Chiles reads as he is from Milwaukee County. He's a Milwaukee County Circuit Court judge. He's currently assigned to the General Felony calendar. So none of us want to see him again. Just as a heads up, we don't want to see this guy again. He was previously employed with the Wisconsin State Public Defenders in Milwaukee County Juvenile and Mental Health Office. And he has accomplished so many things, but the thing that stood out to me, if I can interject, is that he published articles in these law reviews. He gave his perspective and opinion, and I feel like that in of itself is something courageous for somebody to give their opinion, to be willing to give their opinion. And you open yourself up for criticism, but you also open up doors with your opinion, and we appreciate that. At least I do. It speaks about him operating a solo law practice that has facilitated trainings in criminal law, juvenile law, determination of parental rights, and prison reentry and implicit bias. That is unique in your field. At least I believe, for someone to be courageous enough to get into that conversation. So again, thank you for that. And something that you guys may not know is that he is the minister of music at the Tabernacle Community Baptist Church. And that's pretty special in the sense of giving back the arts and things like that. So, and I'm quite sure the thing that you was most proud of is that you are a husband and a father and a grandfather. So that's pretty special too, man. And next we have Miss Megan. She has, in her bio, dedicated her legal career to serving those caught up in the legal system and assisting marginalized individuals by effective problem solving their way to a just resolution. She's been practicing as a defense attorney for 10 years in Milwaukee County and currently is the clinical coordinator of the Milwaukee County Justice System, a mobile legal clinic. I think that's so new to me, like a mobile a legal clinic, when I can remember never even hearing about a legal clinic, or never hear anything about the law except for us against them type things, you know? So the fact that you ride around and provide the information and things like that, I think that's phenomenal. And in 2019, Megan created the Expungement and Pardon Clinic. This unique clinic is designed to assist individuals who are seeking conviction removal and guidance on this intimidating process. And that's where the information and education has to be with people who are released from the correctional system and do the things that they need to do to satisfy their probation and parole and become brothers and sisters of this community that we live in. The lack of information or enthusiasm about, hey, you can get an expungement. And if anything else, a pardon is pretty cool to be informing about, because as being incarcerated as I was, I understood that there was absolutely zero movement on expungements and pardons and things like that for too far along of a time. So for that to be at the forefront again or in the conversation, thank you for being the vehicle for that, okay? And we have a couple more speakers who may be arriving a little bit late. So just be patient with that. And with that being said, we'd like to start. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Quantate. Oh, Doyle. Oh, Doyle, I didn't see you. Sorry about that. I gotta find out where they put it at. Okay. Mr. Doyle Spruer is here in the representation of personal success story and a call to action. Mr. Spruer was a probation and parole agent for the Department of Corrections. Quite sure very unpopular in certain circles. But nevertheless, there. He's now associate minister at the Christ of King Baptist Church. And it says here, and I want to put an emphasis on it, it says he's a father. And I think that is especially a good thing, especially in the community that we come from, to have a father and to be a father and not just a contributor to making the baby. I commend you for that. It says he's a criminal justice reform advocate, a volunteer at West Care, Wisconsin. He's a mentor, and he has a bachelor's degree from Concordia University, major theology minor, business management, and he's a seminary student. So thank you for all that you do, Mr. Spruer, and I appreciate you coming here as well, all right?
Is it on? Is it on? Can we give a round of applause for our MC who got thrown into this? He said he don't know what he's doing, but you did well. A lot of times it takes a lot to get up here and talk about yourself, especially around others you don't know. And when Pastor Monk called me, he said, I think I got somebody else who should MC. And he said, I want you to just, believe in me right now. He was like, I got a young man I think could fit perfectly. And I said, you don't have to tell a young man to come on, because a lot of times we don't give people the opportunity to bring their best self to the table. And for Pastor Monk, this is a situation that he has not went through. So to have somebody MC who know the conversation that we're talking about in the topic, definitely you was exactly where you needed to be. So thank you for taking a call and comment. All right. I just want to add on to Doyle because he didn't say it. Doyle is one of the first, was it the first 8 or 9 people that was actually pardoned by the Governor Evers. As you know, if you know anything about the reentry and recarceration, that was shut down during Walker's term. And so when Governor Evers got elected, he actually put the pardon board back together and people actually got pardoned. And so Doyle is one of the 8 that actually received it. So when you said probation and parole, actually, he shouldn't even have that job if he didn't have a pardon. So that was a little more that probably wasn't in his bio, but this is somebody that's living proof that as you get a second chance, that you're able to do wonders within your community. So I just want to say that. And give it up for Doyle, because he's always with us, too. So today has been extreme of a day. We're still pushing. There's been like some deaths, some shootings, some people and families for some of our other panelists. We definitely heard about the verdict that came out yesterday. I know it's kind of weighing on our community because our office got a lot of calls and people signed up for this event, and as I looked out, it's not as many people as we thought, but I often say whoever came here, that's who needed to be here, and we go work the room as if it was 1,000 people in here, because we know if you took time out of your Saturday to come here, we go do everything within possible to get you the resources or get you the services that you need. So could you give yourself a round of applause to come out on a Saturday? And I just want to say a little quick about me, and I want us to jump right into the panel. And then I also want to give time for either one more one-on-one. I want the audience to be able to ask questions as well, too, and go out to the resource table. I didn't want this to be a panel where we just talk at you all day. I wanted it to be inclusive of the people in the audience who came, who had questions. But I also wanted to give time after the panel for those individuals who may not want to get up and tell their story or may need further assistance to be able to go out to the tables or meet with the judge or with Megan or with Doyle to talk about the process in more of a inclusive manner as well too. Another person that's part of this is Ricky Jefferson. He's actually a Milwaukeean. He moved to Georgia and Texas. For those individuals that signed up, he came from incarceration with a 300 credit score. He has 800 now. He's brought properties, you know, he has land, and he's gonna give back to those people that are transitioning out of reentry. So when they come out, and for those individuals that are already out, he can help them build their credit. And this is something he's giving free to the individuals that come here or contact my office. So if you know somebody who need help with that, a lot of us that was not incarcerated he's willing to help those individuals because he's been in their shoes and he know what it takes, but also he know how hard it was coming home, not having a credit score, don't know where you were gonna work, and not wanting to go back to the place that you just got out of. So if he's listening, because I know we screaming, I just wanna say thank you. He was unable to fly in, but he'll be here in March, but he'll still help you if you were one of the ones that signed on. And so a lot of people ask me, like, why do you focus on reentry? You know, I've never been incarcerated, I have to be honest. But I often tell them I grew up in what people deem to be the worst neighborhood, 53206. I tell people all the time it's not. There are some great people that come out of that zip code. You know, and Milwaukee is great within itself. Don't get me wrong, we have issues and challenges that we have to combat, but to take a whole zip code and say that it's the worst place to raise a black man or the worst place for a black family, and I'm not debating that, but I also want people to know that there are great people that come from there, and we shouldn't be so quick to throw people away because of their zip code or label them as such because of where they came from. And so me having never went to prison, I have 5 brothers who did. I can remember being 14 or 15 and going to court with my brother because my mother had her own issues, and the judge giving him 25 years at 16. And me hugging my brother. They actually let me hug him before they took him away. And me not really understanding what was going on, but knowing that he was about to be gone. Like I wouldn't be able to see him. And then to be able to see him, I believe 15 years later, it took a toll on his mind. It took a toll on his emotion. He came out a totally different person. And some people come out and they're able to be better. My brother was not. He went into like a mental health defect because of prison and the things that happened because he was at such a young age. And I'm not here to debate what he did, whether it was right or wrong. I'm just here to say that there is more services and resources that we need to do if we talk about rehabilitation, especially for young men of color who go into a prison system, who know nothing about what is going on and they're not there to get the resources that they need, and they're treated less than a human being. And so I wanted to change the narrative of that. My other four brothers had a run-in with the law, never really stayed. I have a biological father who's been in and out of jail my whole life. And so I tell people this is something that impacted me deeply. Even though it impacted me directly, it impacted me indirectly. So being somebody that's on the different side of the law, I want to be able to bring those resources and second chances to my community to hopefully say that when it ran in my family and it ran into me, that's where it ran out. So enough about me. I want to turn it over to the other panels. I want to say thank you for coming here today. Let's make sure that we combat this narrative that they put on people of color, especially black men or brown men in Milwaukee. And let's be the change that we so often talk about, but it starts with us. We have to take accountability for the things that we do within our community, but we also have to be better to a community that we call home. So without further ado, I want to have Doyle up just to speak a little bit, yes, about his story. And the reason why we can't do a panel style, because they're going live, and so we have to stand up here. I usually wanted it to be informal. Yeah. So, yeah. And we know we're in the middle of a pandemic, y'all, so we're using different mics, too. But if we can give a round of applause for Doyle, it's that red button on the bottom.
Sit down, okay.
I know, me
Amen.
too.
Well, good afternoon. All right, no response. You know Baptist preachers like calling.
Good afternoon, y'all.
Gonna take a hoop and go sit down. All right, well, listen. Young man, you did a wonderful job with the bios, man. I commend you. 25 years is a long time. You don't even look that, you look like a little kid, man, like, Bow Wow or somebody, man. But God is good, man. Yeah, y'all caught that, right? They were just here. Yeah, I like Bow Wow, the little Bow Wow. So preachers do got a little, and POs, we do got a little, I got a sense of humor, right? So listen, I don't want to be with you too long. I know my role, because the heavyweights are coming. I should have been last, because I'm like David. I'm in the field with the sheep, right? Amen. So listen, I am Doyle Spruer. I come from a middle-class family, born and raised in church, grew up in the church. We was in church 7 days a week, 8-hour shifts, literally like we was working at the church, amen. And so back in 2003, January 1st, remember like it was yesterday, I was charged with possession with intent to deliver marijuana. Never been locked up, HBCU grad. I went to Alabama State class in '96. Never been to jail, nothing on my record. And I ended up pleading guilty because I was wrong. Some guys don't want to make excuses, but I was wrong. So I had Judge Michael Brennan, right? Anybody know Judge Brennan, former Judge Brennan? He's a Republican, and he's straightforward. And so he ended up giving me 15 months in prison. The recommendation board only recommended me to do probation, and at the most give him house correction, because with my education, I had 1,000 letters from everybody in the community, from attorneys, my pastor, you just name it, right? So judge gave me 15 months. That's what the DA recommended. First time, never been locked up. But it was a blessing in disguise. If you read the Bible, I'm a Bible reading, preaching preacher, right? If you go back to Genesis and you look at Joseph's narrative, for those that's in the Bible, that kind of paints the picture of my story. And the whole time, God was with me. But I didn't know he was building me up as a young man, because I was a spoiled kid. I'd never been in trouble. And so it was just something about that carrot that was dangling about the street life, right? Those guys had all the women. I was in a band, right, and I played football, but the drug dealers had all the women, the fly cars, the clothes. And even though I came from a, kind of well-off family, I still kind of glorified that life. It's kind of like the prodigal son when he went out to the foreign land. For those of us who read the Bible, he had everything at home, but he wanted to go to that foreign land, and Daddy gave him half, which he shouldn't have gave him, but, it's another story. But the point was, God allowed me to go through that whole process really to get me here. Because I was going to school to be an attorney. I grew up like in Matlock. Matlock was like the man, because he never lost a case. I said, I want to be just like dude, right? And I'll be glad when they bring shows back there for our kids to watch now, because the stuff they see now is not edification, right? And so I always wanted to be like Matlock, and I said, okay, Mom, I'm going to school. I'll get my undergrad in political science. I want to make a change. I want to be an attorney and one day be a judge like Judge Chiles, right? But the Lord had another path, right? And so make a long story short, I ended up getting out, getting probation, didn't owe any fines. I ended up getting out probation early, didn't drop dirty. I didn't do anything. I was working. And so went to Concordia, got my other undergrad in theology and business management. And so the whole time I was eligible to receive a pardon based on the criteria from the governor's office a week before Scott Walker was going to get out of office. So I did all the paperwork myself, and Megan would tell you the application is nothing nice, right? It's tedious, it's long, it's hard, and if you're not into, writing and really explaining, open up that old wound, because you got to open up some serious stuff. They want to know, why did you commit that crime, and why do you want a pardon? But now, in hindsight, I believe I wasn't ready as I am now, right? Because I'm still kind of figuring out, young married man, just getting into the ministry. But I was still working on my resume, not to do a pardon, but really to build me up as a person. So right before Governor Doyle was getting out of office, I had a week. So I had some colleagues that work in Madison, and they was like, dude, you need to put your pardon in. I said, no. They said 5 years after your last day of probation. Governor Doyle got out, Scott Walker got in, put the application in, got an email from one of his attorneys, said, congratulations, we have your application, but as of right now, we're not doing any pardons. So that was dormant for 9 years. So the whole time I was just working on myself, building as a man, because they didn't owe me anything, right? I committed a crime as a man, and I took full responsibility. And so the new governor was kind of, when he was, candidate to be the governor, he ran on a pardon. So I said, shoot, he got my vote, because usually I'm not going to tell you how I vote, but usually I vote the other way, right? Yeah, we can talk about that later. But I did vote for Governor Eater, and that's the power of the vote. Don't let nobody tell you that your vote do not count, especially when it comes to state, local, city, and county. The presidential, we'll talk about that later, but when it comes to your governor, because they have a hand on your future. So I said, he got my vote, and so I voted for him, and I looked at the news literally every day, and I don't even like the news. And I was just waiting for that article to come out and say he's going to start the pardon process. And Lord, I prayed every day. Even those 9 years, I was praying that Scott Walker would do it, because he's a preacher. He's a preacher kid too, right? He's a PK, and he ran on his elections both times, told him that he's a God-fearing man, right? And so my pastor said, well, how you a God-fearing man if you don't show compassion and forgiveness? Scott Walker was like, and I don't knock Scott Walker. Listen, he's a governor. He can do whatever he wants. Because like I said, I made the mistake. But the thing is, you have to give people a second chance. Because anybody that know they have a felony, whether you're educated, whether your parents are well off, when you go to those job interviews and they want to hire you and they hire you, then they do the background check, the most disheartening thing in the world is to say, sorry, because of this on your record. By law, they can't say why they didn't hire you, but they can kind of formulate the word, and you know. And I'm like, dude, I got a degree, I got a family. Didn't matter. I mean, aced the interviews. It's not like I didn't ace the interview. This was like going in, I had an interview 20 minutes. No. And hearing that over probably about 20 times. And mind you, I got the lowest felony. It should have been a high misdemeanor. And I got the lowest felony you can get. But it didn't discourage me. I kept working on me. I kept going to church. I kept serving. I kept doing what I love to do. That's working with kids. I worked at St. Chiles. I worked for King's Academy Christian School as a gym teacher. That's our school at Christ the King. I did crisis mentoring. I did whatever I could to get to young men and women to tell them the dangers of making the wrong choices and being with the wrong people. It's consequences to whatever decision you make. So I was kind of indirectly using my life story to help the generation behind me. So long story short, the governor did the pardon system. I put my application in. Megan, I can tell y'all now, I didn't tell nobody. This is the first time I'm saying this in public. When I turned my application in, because I was so adamant, they emailed me like, hey, sir, you forgot one piece of paper. And if you don't turn it in within a week, we're going to turn your pardon down. Mine, this is brand new. I put it in, and they said, you got a week. And so it's 3 pieces of paper you have to turn in from the courts. It's the informational page, the judgment conviction, and criminal complaint. I turned in 2 out of 3, because I thought they gave me 3. Do you know I took off work and ran down there and got that paper and certified mailed them right away. And that's how I got in the first group for the pardon. And I did it all myself. It was just really prayer, but I was so adamant to get it, I lost one paper. Anybody know about the pardon system? If you mess up, because they ask you at the end, it's a checklist, and you check yes, and I checked yes that I had all my paperwork, they could have denied me my pardon. I can talk about it now because I'm on victory side, right? But the good thing is it was God grace the whole time that was on me. So here's the testimony part. I'm now standing as a probation pro agent. So I was on that side of the aisle. I'm on this side. And they were just baffled. They like, wow, you're the first person in the history of Wisconsin to become a probation agent with a pardon. And on top of that, my butt, I'm just applying for all kind of law enforcement jobs. 'Cause I really like law enforcement. It is what it is. We need people on both sides, right? So the last time we met, and I'm going to get off this mic, I was interviewing for Milwaukee County Deputy Sheriff position. So in between, I think I hit Megan first. I told other people first. That's wrong, right? I got a response because you had to do the panel interview. Mind you, this is all sheriff deputy, captains, background investigators. I'm sitting there, right? They know my whole history, so they can't come out and say, okay. So they worded the question. Like I said, now, what is your one time in your life you regret? Whatever mistake whatever decision you ever made. So I talked about my situation with the drug case. Mind you, this is all law enforcement agents. These are all captains, right, and sergeants. And it was real cool. It's a panel just like this. So I got into it. I told them why I did it and the reason I did it. And I'm thinking, like, man, they're not going to pass me through. They know my history right here. And I think 2 weeks later, got an email saying, congratulations. The board said they agreed to you. We want to move you along in the hiring process. So right now I'm standing in the hiring process in the final stages to be a deputy sheriff. Now, mind you, it was over 300 candidates, and I made it to the last 50 with them knowing that I got this pardon, right? So I got an email, and I'm going to get out of here again. Baptist preachers don't know our closing. After the verdict was read in Kenosha, whether you agree with it or not, it is what it is, right? And so we need more people to go to law school. We need more people to become attorneys, and district attorneys, we need more judges. So we cry about the system, but we don't want to do nothing. We sit back. That's why I became a probation officer, because I knew the plight. If you walk wrong, we have the power to lock you up. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying what's the rule. So I want to get in and see, okay, how can I make a difference so we can stop this recidivism? I don't need a check. God blesses me, but I want to do it because I care about our people. So I got an email about 12:16 yesterday after the verdict was read. I'm sitting at Pizza Ranch on lunch, eating pizza, right? I'm cheating on my diet. Out of all police departments, I forgot I even applied because I was playing around. The Tulsa Police Department emailed me and said, congratulations, Mr. Spruer. We want to consider you to be a police officer for the Tulsa Police Department. Now, mind you, I'm like the little rebel dude. I only applied for them because what happened with the shooting that occurred with the guy, the former Tulsa police officer. I said, man, we need to stop this. Applied, so now they want me to go along the hiring process. So I say all that to say this, that anything is possible, but you have to change your mind. The first thing is your mind. If we still have that old thinking and just, mad at the system and mad at ourselves, mad at our daddies that weren't there, mad at the community, that put drugs, I'm just using this example, not me personally, then we're never going to succeed. Everybody wants to talk about Black Lives Matter, but then what are you doing on your end? Because the truth to be told, a lot of murders that we deal with are of people of color, right? And so we mad at Kenosha, but we ain't mad at Pookie for shooting Ray Ray, right? You know what I mean? That's hypocritical to me. So we need to change that narrative in our own backyard before we can address the legal side. And so that's why I make myself available, and I expose myself to really give somebody hope, healing, and help, and let them know that it is a brighter day if you do the right thing. Now, your story might not be my story, but God has your own story, your own path for you. So that's it. Anybody got questions, we can talk after the panel.
We're going to talk about your voting choices.
Real, I'm serious.
One thing we do is we keep it real with each other. Whether we agree or disagree, we like to have real, candid conversations as well as that Black Lives Matter, right? We need to talk about accountability in our neighborhoods, but we can't neglect the fact that Black people do get killed at extremely high rates by law enforcement, right? That's good. No, we not. And for all of y'all, like us up on here, I know y'all look at us and y'all say we might have different titles. We're in leadership too, but I feel like when we in our community, even when we are within ourselves, we have to be real with each other. We be transparent, and that's how we learn and grow. Because if we don't have the conversations, that's why you see a lot of the things that are happening within the community now, because people could have had a conversation about what was going on within each other, whether you agreed or disagreed, and came to some type of solution. So I don't want you guys to see us up here and think, we all still family, right? Yeah. He'll talk to me later. Okay, now I want to introduce Megan. They already introduced her, but I want us to understand, because we look at Megan and the work that she do, and she's an attorney. And so coming from my neighborhood, you might say, why would you want to help people of color? So I'm going to let Megan tell y'all why she got into this work and why she tireless, keep going, even when they want to turn down the Milwaukee Justice Center, even when they wanted to stop like the expungement and pardons. I don't know if y'all know now, but it's at the state level, and we don't know how it's going to turn out. So also, if you don't know who your state representative is, contact my office, because we need to call them and let them know that this is a program that needs to keep going. This is something that doesn't even just affect Milwaukee County, but Wisconsin at whole. And it's up there, it's being held up, and we don't know if it's going to pass. There's a lot of work that went into this pardon and expungement on the state level, and now we at the place where possibly if somebody don't vote with us, that all of the work that's been done for the last 3 and 4 years to go down the drain, and we don't know if we bring it back up, how it will happen, or if we'll even get it to the floor. So that's why when they talk about elections and who represents you, it's so important, not just on the state level, but even the local level. I often tell people, I work for you, and when I stop doing the job of my community, as you voted me in, please vote me out. And I usually say you don't hear it from electeds, but I didn't take this job because of the title. I took this job to make a difference. So if I ain't helping my community, then I'm doing a disservice to the people that elected me in. So Megan, so it won't be about me. Let's give a round of applause for her, y'all, because I just put her on the spot. And Khalif came in, so when you come up, you can just give your intro, who you are, and the work that you do. We know it's tireless as well, too. So thank you for coming.
Hi. Thank you for having me this morning and afternoon. I'm Megan. I run the Milwaukee Justice Center's mobile legal clinic, and I created the expungement pardon clinic and currently run that. And that's really my main focus. Probably the last year has been on expungements and pardons, and bringing legal resources of all sorts to the community. I have a table in the back, a resource table, and I'll be out there standing after the panel discussion to answer any questions. So just by way of background, wonderful job in introducing all of us. I was a public defender for a little over 10 years. I started in Racine County, and then I was a public defender in Milwaukee County Adult Trial Division. And before becoming a public defender, I worked at the Innocence Project in Madison, where I went to law school. And that's sort of where it was solidified in me that I had no other choice to become a defense attorney with my law degree. And in fact, it was at the Innocence Project where I was there for 2 years as a law student, and then I had a case that went up to the Supreme Court, and we were victorious there, and it was a reversal and remand. Went back down to the circuit court level for a retrial, and by then I was an attorney. So I was able to see that case full circle. We ended up exonerating Evan Zimmerman. He was in for first-degree intentional homicide, and we worked tirelessly on his case. There were points where I thought I was going to drop out of law school because I was working so hard on his legal case. My studies were suffering because I was tireless on his case. As a law student, I was able to work as kind of a quasi-investigator, and also I would say I learned how to be a good defense attorney by reading the 12 boxes of the trial transcripts on how a case can go absolutely wrong. So I learned in a reverse style of teaching. I learned how to be a good lawyer by looking at the travesty that can occur in a courtroom when you don't have adequate and, I think, vigorous representation. And I carry that with me every day in my interactions with not only my law students, but my interactions with the clients that I serve and assist. Right now, our legal clinic is full. Our last clinic will be Saturday, December 4th. So what I have done to rise to the need, and I think the absolute demand of people who want to fill out pardons, is we are starting community classrooms. So I had a community classroom Thursday night at the United Methodist Children's Services, SC, over on 39th and Lisbon. And we're gonna be there probably once a month. I'd like to open up to other venues, and we're gonna be doing it as a night school. So it's gonna be from 5 to 7. Because our motto also at the Expungement Pardon Clinic is nobody should risk losing a job to pursue an expungement or pardon. So we want to do things like kind of alternate hours to accommodate everybody who can attend. So the next one will be December 7th, and again, it'll still be at the UMCS, and again, it'll be 5 to 7. I'll have light refreshments and water. There will be law students there. There will be lawyers there. And what I do is I literally, it's a law school class. I'm not cutting any corners. I'm teaching the community as how I teach my law students. We go line by line through a pardon, and you got a table, you've got pens, and we sit there and we fill it out together. When we get to the essay portion, that's where, again, there's a lot of introspection that, of course, the document itself requires and deserves. And so spaces, I have put together sort of a tutorial on how you can be kind to yourself in going through that application. And then again, the lawyers and law students are there to help guide as well. But a lot of it is, and Doyle, you can probably attest to this too, I always advocate for those that I assist, it is not a document you can do in one sitting. It's like a law school application, it's like a med school application, law school application, and it's very technical. Doyle's correct that if there's one piece of information that is missing, they have grounds to deny you, because you attest to the fact that what's in the four corners of the document, meaning what's in the entirety of the document, is accurate and complete. So if you say something is accurate and complete, and in fact one page is missing, they interpret that as, oh, well, there's a sense of dishonesty here, which is absolutely not how that should be interpreted, right? So I actually get a lot of phone calls from people who get emails or letters from the governor's office, and they're like, Megan, help explain this to me. They're saying that I failed to do this, that, or the other. What can I do? And I'm like, okay, we got to get on this right away. Let's get this supplemented, or maybe I can even figure out what I can do on my end. I speak with the governor's office, the staff attorneys, probably once a month. I check in with them. Again, we aren't the Pardon Advisory Board. We apply no judgment. We help anybody. We don't discriminate. There's no financial requirement. It's a free service. The legal clinic meets with individuals one-on-one via Zoom right now, and that's because we can utilize sharing our screens and email. The legal team consists of usually 1 to 2 lawyers. I've incorporated Godfrey and Kahn, so I have corporate attorneys who believe in literally criminal justice reform and forgiveness in a system. So Godfrey and Kahn attorneys are taking trainings right now with me in how to fill out pardons, and then I have them paired with a criminal defense attorney or a prosecutor. I've had prosecutors, retired DAs, who are saying, I want to be part of this. And so now we have district attorneys who are actually volunteering in the program, I think, coming to the realization that we have to, at some point, these records have to stop. The records cannot be what is consistently used as a vehicle to deny people and overlook people for opportunities, particularly in housing and, of course, in education and employment. So why I've really focused myself on expungement and pardon, because the time is now. On September 7th, so 2-3 months ago, the Executive Order 130 came out. And what that did was it expedited the review for a pardon. So right now, I'm not gonna lie, there is a 13 to 14 month waiting period to get your hearing in front of the Pardon Advisory Board. That is what their messaging is. I think that's probably pretty generous. When I gauge the journey of some of our individuals that we assist, it's about a 15 to 16 month wait to get your hearing. Hearings used to be in person. We are actually scheduled in February of 2019 at the Milwaukee Bar Association, which is also one of my employers. We were gonna host it at the Milwaukee Bar Association, and because we heard that the pandemic the coronavirus was coming, they shut it down, and so I think there was a 3 or 4 month window where there weren't any hearings. I watch every single hearing, and they're now over Zoom, but before that, I was at every single hearing because they aren't well attended. People don't go there. I mean, I watch it on a YouTube channel. It's public. It has to be put out publicly. I will tell you the genesis of the right to pardon is for the governor. It is through Article 5, Section 6 of the Wisconsin State Constitution. It gives the governor the power to pardon felonies. You cannot pardon a misdemeanor. So that's why the expungement bill is so important, because where the pardon falls short, the expungement would hopefully carry the day for those that have misdemeanors. And I'll share with you, pardons and expungements do two separate things in the law. Oftentimes individuals will contact our office and say, I need an expungement. And what we hear and what we understand is they're looking to see, I need something off my record. And we examine an individual for a pardon, for misdemeanor expungement or felony expungement. You can also get felony expungement. And also we look towards criminal records through the DOJ's Criminal Information Bureau report to see if there's anything that can be taken off of your record there. But just real quickly to share, expungements seals your record. So a sealing of one's record means that it's not available for public viewing. So you can't look it up on CCAP, the Consolidated Court Access Program. That's called CCAP in Wisconsin. Every state has it. CCAP is a private organization that contracts with the Supreme Court of Wisconsin. And that's what expungement does. No one can go in the file to make photocopies of the criminal complaint or read your criminal complaint at the clerk of court's office, and no one can see it on the computer. An expungement does not reinstate your Second Amendment. We have a lot of people that will call us too, and I kind of have put myself out there as, like, if you need a question answered real quick, call our office or email me, and I'll try to help you out as best I can right away. A lot of people will apply for their carry and concealed permit, and they said, I got an expungement, but how come I was denied? And the DOJ said that I didn't pass the background check. It's because the expungement doesn't reinstate that Second Amendment. Only a pardon does. So what an expungement does is seals it so that nobody can go into the file, not even you. You'd have to ask a court for an order to lift that sealment or that order of expungement for a specific time period for you or your attorney to go back into that file for that time period and specific reason. You have to state with specificity for why we need to do that. We've had to do it in certain cases because there is, some people will get an expungement and then they want to get a pardon. But there's a strategy to how you address some of these conviction removal opportunities. And so we always say, if you are sort of this unicorn individual, which is somebody that we love to see in the clinic, somebody who is expungement eligible and pardon eligible, you'd want to get the documents out of that file before you file for expungement, because once that file is sealed, you have to get a court order to get back in there, and you probably would need the help of an attorney to effectuate that. A pardon, on the other hand, again, reinstates your Second Amendment, so that Doyle can become a law enforcement officer. You could join the military. You can enjoy sports that include weapons and firearms. So the Second Amendment is reinstated by a pardon, okay? Similarly, certain countries right now around the world do not accept individuals that have U.S. felonies on their record. For a long time, Canada did not, and I think Canada still does not accept individuals with felonies on their criminal records. So individuals who want to join their families in camping or fishing, or relatives that may live up in Canada or vacation, there are certain places in the world that you can't go and visit. You wouldn't make it out of their customs. You wouldn't make it out of the airport. We see this too for individuals who really like to partake in cruises. You won't be able to get off when they port. You can't get off the boat because of your felony status. So that's a reason. And then I'll be very honest, just by I guess serving and representing and advocating for so many people who unfortunately. I was their defense attorney, and they were found guilty. And there is a psychological effect that occurs and a heavy, heavy weight and stigma that one carries by having that label of felon. And so I think the pardon itself, the pardon letter, is a reaffirmation that says that you deserve this. And I think it is so powerful. And I think they should be more automatic. I think that we could maybe be more aggressive in handing them out. But the window is now to try to do it. Because again, back in September, I'll go back to September 7th, executive order expedited that process. So 4, this is the breakdown of the executive order 130, nonviolent, older, non-personal victims. So if you have a crime, a felony, that it was older, so it's been, and there isn't a time limit. The governor's office will never give a specific time limit, but an older felony, nonviolent, so no, within the 4 corners of the criminal complaint, reading that criminal complaint, there's no violence to that offense, and then no personal victim. The personal victim component was brought up and specified because there still are reporting requirements. So I believe it's chapter 960, right? Or chapter 968 is the victim rights code. So the DA, the district attorney, has an obligation to notify the victim of any crime. And then we also have the adage of Marcy's Law, too. So, so with Marcy's Law as well, victims of crimes have an absolute and affirmative right to state their opinion as to if somebody should get a pardon or not. So does the judge, and so does the DA. But for expedition, if it's an older, nonviolent, non-personal victim, so a drug case would be a non-personal victim. Non-personal victim, when I've questioned the governor's office and I've chatted with their staff attorneys, they always enjoy this. If it's a major retail theft with a larger amount of money, so it's a felonious retail theft or theft, but the victim itself is a store entity, that's considered non-personal because it's not a person, it's a store, okay? So we examine in the clinic specifically looking at how the criminal complaint reads, and of course the conviction and the structuring of the conviction and the charge, but we are not the determining factor of who gets the expedition or not. The other thing that happened on September 7th was, this was administrative. So it didn't come through executive order, but the Pardon Advisory Board, okay, as a committee set up by the governor's office, they said, no longer will we take one-time felons only. So for 2 years, from July of 2019, that's when Governor Evers started the Pardon Advisory Board, and the first generation of the application came out. For 2 years, I would be advising and helping individuals who are only one felon and one and done. One time. And I have to be honest, that's not necessarily reality of how truly life is. It really isn't. Mental health, addiction, poverty, none of that is a one and done often, okay? So what happened on September 7th is they changed the language of one of the eligibility standards, and as a lawyer, this is where I really look towards the language matters, right? Words matter. And in fact, it is a 5-year wait period at the end of any criminal conviction. So you could have more than one felony now, just by the word of any. Now you can have more than one felony conviction as long as there's a 5-year window since the last day your foot touched a Department of Corrections sentence. So it'd either be extended supervision, ES, or probation if we're talking a more recent case. We do help individuals on old law, on old new law, parole. So, and those are cases that I typically will be more involved in because I'll have to do a little bit more legal research there specifically for those individuals who are dealing with old law and old new law before truth in sentencing came into effect. And again, there's 2 generations of truth in sentencing as well. So the sentencing structure is very important. I think it's important to have a lawyer. And might I mind you, you aren't afforded an attorney to help you. The Public Defender's Office does not appoint an attorney on a pardon, and it does not appoint an attorney on an expungement, okay? So these are vehicles in the law and opportunities in the law that the law itself says, yeah, you can do that on your own. And I have to explain and express that over time and time again when helping and assisting clients and even being in the system, you know, here is a system that oftentimes everybody knows it to be one that has been punitive, has been non-forgiving to individuals, and often both sides of the case, even in civil as well as in criminal, when you walk out of the courtroom, no one is satisfied. Finding satisfaction in the courts is very hard to actually achieve, right? And so now they're asking individuals to reapproach a court that they only know, or an institution that they only know that has only ever stood in judgment of them, and it's been always on the other side of judging them in a very negative, unforgiving way. So I think part of my role, too, in this position is also training the lawyers and the law students that I have in the clinic to be very understanding of that, and frankly, I will share with you that they are. There is a huge emotional and psychological component to applying for a pardon. I had a client just the other day, I was in a CLE, and she texted me that she was crying at the post office, mailing it out. And she was like, this is so emotional to I'm letting it go. I'm physically mailing out this request that I feel is the key to unlocking a whole host of opportunities in my life. And I'm sitting here crying, and she was texting me. And I was like, you did it, right, though? You did it. And now we just wait. And then what I did was like, okay, well, let's focus forward, right? So I emailed her back quickly, and I said, okay, so we've got 2 to 4 weeks to hear back from the pardon, and keep up with me. And that's the biggest thing, is you've got somebody, at least in the clinic, if it be me or if it be one of my interns, I have a couple law interns, that you can always reach back at to say, hey, I got this message from the Pardon Advisory Board, or what should I do? I haven't heard anything, because it's a long game. It's an absolute journey. And to do it on your own without any assistance is just super daunting. So I'm here in the community, and I'm trying to get more and more into the community at different hours, weekends, and evenings, because there are thousands of people who are literally eligible for pardons right now. And I just don't think they may not know that they're eligible, or they may not know exactly how to go about achieving that pardon. And so get the word out if you can. I have folders that I've compiled that have not only the pardon application, but I printed out the PowerPoint presentation that I do in the community, and it's the line-by-line tutorial. I have a YouTube video, both in eligibility determination and then also how to fill out the pardon application, because everybody doesn't learn the same way. You know, reading something is I have to read things 3 or 4 times, it seems these days, to actually comprehend it and put that time in to do it. So sometimes watching a video and watching someone go through the pardon is really helpful. So we just want to create different modalities so that people can learn and go through it as best as they can. So hopefully, if you would like, please show up for December 7th at the United Methodist Children's Services. But nonetheless, I'll be in the back of the room after the presentation today. Thank you.
That was a lot of information and input. She'll stay around so you can get more in detail. But definitely, I think it's great when people understand the difference between the expungement and the pardon, and how do you qualify for that, because a lot of times people wouldn't understand, as well as some people may not qualify, let's be very honest, for the expungement or the pardon, but there are other exemptions you can get as far as trades and stuff if you want to work, that's through the state, and that's a whole other conversation that needs to be had in our community. But without further ado, Judge Milton Chiles. Let's give a round of applause for him.
Good afternoon, everyone. And thank Supervisor, but thank you, Attorney, Supervisor Taylor, for putting on this event. I'm born and raised in Milwaukee County. I'm a 53206 resident. I lived on 10th and Keith till I was 18, and I went off to college. So this is my community, and it's just an awesome opportunity to serve as a judge in this community as well. Governor Evers appointed me a little bit over 2 years ago. So right now it's noted my current assignment is General Felony Court. So unfortunately, I see a lot of young brothers and sisters who are driving erratically in the city, speeding and fleeing from the police. A lot of those individuals come into my court at this time. So part of what I want to do today is talk about, before you get to Megan, the criminal case itself. And part of my job, what I did, I was in juvenile court for a number of years. And I want to remind individuals in regards to a juvenile adjudication. So a lot of people forget that if an individual, 14, 15, 16 years old, get this juvenile record as a felon, they're a felon for the rest of their life. And unfortunately, they forget that. And they're 14, they get this felony record, and then all of a sudden they're 20 or in their 30s, they try to get a gun, they try to get a job, and all of a sudden it pops up that you're a felon and that you can't do certain things because of this juvenile adjudication. So one of the positives in regards to the juvenile process there is no time limits in regard to applying for an expungement as a juvenile. So if you know someone who has who got a juvenile felony conviction, they were 16, 14, 15, they can actually at any point file for an expungement, and there's a process. You have to go out to children's court, file a petition, and you go in front of a judge, and then the judge determines whether or not your juvenile record could be expunged. I had a 30-year-old gentleman who was charged with a sexual assault case when he was a juvenile, and he came out to juvenile court, and we were able to get his record expunged, his juvenile record expunged, because the statute allows that. And also, so that's kind of the juvenile side. And then part of what we have to do is just to try to avoid the felony conviction period. And I'm not going to get into, the police stops, and there's definitely issues with the system itself. But once you get charged, DA's office have the discretion in regards to what they want to charge and how they want to charge you. But once you get the charge itself, that's when the negotiating begins. I'm sure Megan could remember, but they tell defense attorneys, you start preparing for the sentencing at your initial appearance. So that's when you start getting letters, character letters together. If there's a need for treatment, that's when you get involved in treatment. If there's a need for restitution, that's when you start paying restitution. You do all this stuff in the beginning. The case may take a year or 2 years, but if you're paying $20 a month on restitution because you stole something from somebody, by the time the case could get to sentencing, the restitution could be done. And those are the things that you're kind of negotiating with the DA's office. If they see that you're involved in treatment, or they see you've paid off restitution, or if they see you've done community service, these are some things that both the DA's office and the judges appreciate, and therefore they take that into consideration. So once you get the charge, and then you and your attorney, or you and your attorney meet with the district attorney's office, the first thing you want to try to do is avoid the criminal conviction. So I've seen them give out fines to other individuals that don't look like us. And rather than get a criminal conviction, they'll give the person a fine or a ticket. They'll reduce it to a citation. So fight for that. If they're not willing to do that, there's something called a deferred prosecution agreement. And what that means is you are signing a contract that for the next 6 months, 9 months, or 1 year, you agree to do certain things. And if you are successful in doing those things within that period of time, the case could be dismissed, or the felony could be reduced to a misdemeanor charge. So that's another thing that we don't encourage people to do, this deferred prosecution agreement, especially for first-time felons and people first time in the system. A lot of times this is an option for many. And during the whole COVID, the last almost 2 years, there were so many deferred prosecution agreements that were offered by the district attorney's office because the cases couldn't go through the system. So they were offering these DPAs. And again, you just had to make sure that you follow the rules and your conditions within this period of time. And at the end of this time frame, your case could be dismissed. Another option is to, when you talk to the district attorney's office, to see if they will reduce you. So initially, you may be charged with a felony, but ultimately, before you come in front of the judge, they can negotiate that your case gets reduced to a misdemeanor or a lower class felon. And if it's reduced to a lower class felony charge, it could be a charge that's eligible for expungement. As Supervisor Taylor noted, right now, and I was reading something, Wisconsin has probably some of the worst expungement laws in the Midwest. In regards to the limitation, you have to be 25 years old or younger, and then in regards to the type of charges themselves. Misdemeanors and low-class felony charges are the only cases that are eligible for expungement. So part of your negotiation then is to try to either get the charge reduced to a misdemeanor or a low-class felony. Then ultimately, if it goes to sentencing, the law is pretty clear. The judge has to order expungement at your sentencing hearing. Again, I've seen attorneys, unfortunately, not ask for expungement. I've had to kind of do it on my own merit for a young person that's coming in front of me, and I ask the parties, are you asking for me to consider expungement? And then they remember. And then at that point, again, depending on everything that you're presenting with me, 99% of the time, I want to give that individual an opportunity to get their record expunged. But then I kind of put it on them. And what the law says is if they complete all the conditions of probation, they shall, the record shall be expunged. And completing all the conditions mean that they can't pick up any new charges, while on probation, they can get revoked. They have to, if I order community service, they have to complete that, anger management classes, whatever is ordered by the court, they have to complete all of those conditions to be successfully eligible for expungement. And the case doesn't even come back in front of the judge anymore. If they do everything that they're supposed to do, once they finish their term of probation, their record will be expunged. So I think part of this conversation that we definitely want to have today, we want to avoid even getting into the system or getting that felony record to not have to deal with this. But then if that happens, that's when you go talk to Megan. But I think part of the problem, part of the concern at this point is let's try to negotiate the systems where we're not getting these felony charges. And a lot of that will depend on us being proactive and people knowing exactly what they need to do to avoid this felony conviction. So I'll be available and I'll be around as well if you have any more questions for me too. Thank you.
Thank you. Listen, you didn't even have to say clap. You must have gave some good information. First time they was just clapping. But it's so vitally important that if it's not asked at the time of sentencing, then it kind of validates it out. And so it's so important. And if you don't have an attorney, like Megan was saying, you don't know. We don't know what we don't know. We don't have money to go get attorneys. And usually parents are just going there with their youth or adults, and you don't know the system. And so we get into a system of recidivism and not knowing what's best for us. Last but certainly not least, Khalif, he is the founder and CEO of Breaking Barriers and All of Us and None, doing a lot of great work within his community. He has a story himself, so I'll let him tell it to you. But definitely, he was dealing with something earlier, that's why he was late, but somebody that's always on the ground, always for his community, and regardless of what's going on, he makes sure that he gives back and help others so that they don't have to be in the place that he was in. So hand clap, and the floor is yours. Thanks. The red button, yeah. Dirty shoes, you gotta hold it for a second.
Peace. Can y'all hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. Grand Rising, everybody. Say Grand Rising, everybody. That just means good morning. I don't believe there's anything good about morning, so I don't say good morning or good afternoon. I say, My name is Minister Khalif Muabel. I'm the Executive Director of Breaking Barriers Mentoring Inc. and the founder and CEO. I'm also the founder of All of Us in None, Wisconsin, and also founder of Kenosha Core, which I've been on the ground for 4 days straight. I'm very tired, interrupting violence in Kenosha and keeping the peace up there, and debating or breaking up, debates with white supremacists and all kind of things going on up there. So I'm extremely tired. And then when I got home at 3 o'clock in the morning yesterday, I got a phone call that told me that two of my friends one of my best friends had been shot. And one is on life support, and the other one is, he's recovering from some wounds or whatnot. Stay still. Oh, in the middle? Oh, okay. Pardon the body. So I'm tired nonetheless. I'm here. So in my career, I've served over 5,000 people, men and women re-entering back into the community. I've been able to put them in positions to make them business owners and start their own organizations, to become activists, to take back their freedom, and also become a voice in the community, positive and productive role models in the community, and things like that. I did 15 years in prison. I did 10 years in solitary confinement in the worst prison in the country. In 2006, I was labeled one of the top 25 terrorists in the country by the Bush administration. Now, why that verdict came down, I don't know. I just got a letter in the mail, myself and one of my best friends who was right across the hallway from me, telling us that we were put on the top 25 terrorist list. Then subsequent, when I came home in 2010, I got a letter from the government trying to recruit me to work for them, saying that I had some type of special abilities and they've been following me throughout my whole life and They wanted me to work for them, so I sent them a middle finger. But that's just me. I'm not going to believe that the people that oppress me can help liberate me and that they have an agenda to liberate my people. I'm all about making sure that our people are empowered to do what they can for themselves. That's what I believe. One of the reasons why I stay boots on the ground is to empower people to take back and take charge of their own lives so that they can deal with whatever they got to deal with to be the best them they can be. That's why I'm out there every day beating up the ground, boots on the ground, and making sure that people like Brother Todd, who did a lot of time with me in prison, Brother KV right there, my brother right here, all of us was in prison together. We were all in prison together. Matter of fact, me and Todd were two of the youngest people to go to the adult prison system in this state. I was the youngest, he was the second youngest. Oh, and KV, how old were you? He was 16, I was 15, he was 16. I went first before all y'all though. Yeah. But you see, but that's the ripple. When I went, opened up the floodgates for everybody. I didn't go through Wales, I didn't go through Ethan Allen or Lincoln Hills. They sent me straight to a max facility. And from there, I went to a supermax at 19 years old. And I stayed in the supermax until I was 28 years old, until I had to litigate my way out of there. I was a jailhouse lawyer, quote unquote. I've been practicing law for almost about 20 years now. So I definitely went to school for that and got a degree and everything else, but I never used it. I used it to become a courtroom advocate for a lot of the brothers that were being charged with cases and that were dealing with public defenders that wasn't representing their best interests. So what my job was to do was to hold these public offenders accountable, make sure that they're not just pleading brothers out, give them an opportunity to fight their cases. Some of these people were really innocent, but they were so afraid of the time that was being put over their heads that they would just plea out. And most of these cases result in conviction through plea bargain. So I started out as a courtroom advocate there in Madison, Wisconsin, and I sat in on about maybe 30, 40 different trials and cases, but we always pushed for trial. And out of all of every single time that we pushed for trial, and I sat with these public defenders that were representing a brother or a sister, every single time those people beat their cases. It's crazy how when you challenge the system to prove what they're saying, they can't really do it. That's just a fact. But sometimes people are just dead wrong and they just caught red-handed and you can't do anything about that. But still take it to trial because you don't want to be on the back end trying to appeal something that you already acquiesced in. It's hard to get back once you take that plea bargain. But mainly what I want to say today is this. The expungement process is important. The pardon process is important. And I appreciate you guys for doing what you do. Because here's a brother who is in prison and now he's a PO. That's astounding to me. You know, I think that's a testimonial within itself. But my main thing is the preventative part. We want to prevent young brothers and sisters from going into the system. Because we know once you're in the system, it's hard to get out the system. It's easy to get into the system, but it's very, very difficult to get out of the system. Even today, I'm still wrapped up in the system, but it doesn't stop me from the fight. It doesn't stop me from pressing forward. It doesn't stop me from inspiring the masses to make sure that they don't walk in the footsteps that I walked in. And the main thing is that a lot of us come out and we have a defeated mentality, and some of us come out with the zeal to change things. Barriers to success, like housing, job, no credit history, no rental history, no job history, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and it makes those barriers much more difficult to navigate through or break through. We become hopeless, and a lot of us go back to what we're used to. Our job is to catch those people before they decide, you know what, I'm giving up, I'm going back to the streets. Nope, I'm right in front of you before you go back to the neighborhood. Matter of fact, let's go over here. And we redirect their attention to something that's positive and productive. We get them on that productive track, and we get to changing their mind one step at a time. It's very difficult to relate to people when you can't relate to people. And that's why we say people closest to the problem are closest to the solution. but farthest away from resources and power to change their own social conditions. So our job is to provide that access, figuring out the crevices and cracks in society that actually yields opportunity for men and women returning home from prison, and the ones that's on the brink of going into the prison. We want to stop them before they do that, and that's the youth. We got to stop. We got to get into these schools and do what we need to do. We need to have real live conversations. A lot of us, when we went in, there was very few resources in prison. We had to take the initiative to work on ourselves. The minute I made the decision to say I was done, I was done. You know, I remember a time when I smoked cigarettes. I was 16 years old. I was in Green Bay Correctional Institution, and I was just puffing on it through the gate, and I was just looking at the tier that, you know, there's nothing there I can see in front of me but a wall. And I said to myself, you know what? I don't want to smoke cigarettes no more. And I decided that day, tossed the cigarette out the gate, and I never smoked another cigarette. So I said, okay, now, if I can just stop smoking cigarettes, if I can apply that willpower to my life, I can pretty much stop anything, and I can continue to move forward. So that cigarette was the beginning in my journey to realize the power that I had within myself to change my condition mentally. I don't believe that God will change the condition of a people until the people change the conditions within themselves. This is something that I strongly believe, and I've seen play out many times. Like yesterday, there were a group of white supremacists on this side. There were a group of our people on this side. These people were saying pro-cow, 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 and they was holding the American flag. These people on this side were saying F-cow, 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 and they threw down the American flag and stomped on it. Now, these people were yelling, screaming, yelling back and forth with each other. And it's viral. The video went viral. Y'all can see it sometime. But they're going back and forth, back and forth. So I stepped in the middle, and I said, okay, what are you guys accomplishing here? And what do you mean? What do you mean? I said, what are you accomplishing? They can't hear you. You can't hear them. Are you guys trying to communicate with each other? They said, yeah, we just want to understand. The white supremacists, we just want to understand this side. I said, you want to understand this side? I said, okay, what is your point over here? You're screaming, yeah, F, you. I said, listen, let's have a dialogue. And guess what? We had a dialogue. It was a beautiful dialogue. And those people came out hugging each other, right? Simple communication, breaking down the barriers that divide us and understanding that oppression is oppression across the board, right? Of course, our people got a different kind of a shake. We're 150 years behind, you know, the European counterparts in economics. We're just far behind, right? We're steady trying to fight from behind, so it's difficult. However, what we do need to understand is that if we have the ability to communicate with systems and be able to inform them about our experience, in addition to systems, the people in the streets that don't understand what this side can do to them for the rest of their lives. I looked up the etymology of the word felony. The word felon goes all the way back to the Roman times. And then it talked about a fallen angel. Then it talked about the inability to be redeemed. So once you're a felon and that tag is on your record, the system's mindset is that you can never be redeemed from that. And so it's very difficult to navigate through what we call the American dream or the privilege of being in America when you got the tag on you. So what people like myself and these brothers are trying to do is we're trying to revamp the mindset of the system. But we can't do that arguing and screaming and shouting and things of that nature. It's going to take us one step at a time, educating the people who make up the system about the impact of the system and the inability of that system being able to assist us in our transition back into the community. Our job as people who do peer support, peer mediation, reentry, things of that nature, is to make sure that the brothers and sisters coming home from prison have the resources or the access to resources that they need to have a successful transition. We call that a soft landing. And then they have ripples, they have children. A lot of the people like myself, I was in prison, and while I was in prison, my father was in prison. And when my father was in prison, my uncle was in prison, his brother, and then my brother, who's right under me, came to prison. And then my brother that's right under that brother came to prison. It was a time where all 6 of us was in prison at the same time, and we were writing each other through the institution mail. That's a cycle that we have to reverse. That's something that we have to change, especially if we are saying that we care about the humanity in people. When we use terminologies like inmate, felon, offender, things of that nature, you're denying people their humanity. You're not identifying people as human beings. And so systemically, we call a system a beast, because a beast don't really care about the humanity of an individual. It just cares about making money, economics, and how the system is supposed to function so it benefits the bottom line. And we're trying to humanize that ideal by showing that this process works. I'm a success story. He's a success story. He's a success story. He's a success story. Highlighting these success stories, and not the ones that are that may fall short, right? Because recidivism in the state of Wisconsin doesn't mean you catch a new. That's when you catch a new crime, catch a new case, right? Most people don't recidivate. They don't catch new cases. They simply are revocated by DOC. More revocations happen than new crimes when people return home. This is a reality that a lot of us don't know about. And then most of the felonies that people are catching in the state of Wisconsin, and I can only speak for Wisconsin right now, they're not violent offenses. They're not violent offenses. So when people are able to perpetuate an idea to lock them up, throw away the key, they're this, they're that, they're that. Like the people's argument yesterday, the guy Kyle was defending property. Then it was a brother who was out there who was the provocateur, and I called him out on it. I said, man, you're a provocateur, man. You're good at what you do. He had 70,000 views on his live by provoking people, and he was a brother. And the brother said, well, Kyle was threatened. I said, how was he threatened? Because we was out there on the ground. My people, we was out there. We was there. And he said, because the guy had a skateboard. The guy had a skateboard. He said he had a skateboard and was going to hit Kyle with the skateboard. I said, at what point did he raise the skateboard to hit Kyle? He said, the video don't show that he raised the skateboard. And I said, how can somebody that got an AR-15 be threatened by somebody with a skateboard? And this is just what was in the mindset. But my point was, I said, you're defending property. You're not defending a life. And that is how I see the system. The system defends property, not life. You got to think about it. We're livestock. A lot of the people inside of the prison are just warehoused there. They've gutted all of the industry out of the prison. You can't come home with trades anymore, like plumbers and barbers and things like that. You can't come home with those type of skills that can pay the bills. You're in there and you're just sitting there. And then with the implementation of Truth in Sentencing in 1999, that took away all incentive for early release. So whatever you want to do to get home early, you take that out of your mind, because the time that you got is the time that you're going to do. These are things that we have to change in the system. And in Wisconsin, we have the worst incarceration rate of so-called African-American men. And the so-called African-American women are on the rise, filling up the system to be warehoused, right? So it's our job to make sure that we put a face on the experience and the impact itself, and show that these kind of success stories are real and that they can continue to be real if we all invest in people and not prisons. That is the most important thing. And the last thing I want to say is everything that I've went through to be in the position that I'm in today is very It's been very difficult, but it's not been impossible. It's not been impossible. And that's the message that I have for anybody coming out, transitioning back into the community. No matter what you go through, no matter what barriers you're faced with, when you come home, nothing is impossible, especially if you wrap yourself around the right people and change the narrative one step at a time. My name is Minister Khalif. Peace and love, y'all.
All right. So now we just want to open it up if anybody has any questions. You will get a chance to speak with them more one-on-one if you want, but if anybody in the audience have a question, he'll bring you the mic. You got here and then here.
So,
One sec, he gonna bring you the mic, yeah, just so. And then I'm gonna give you these wet wipes, just so we can see this.
Yes, my name is Tim Turner. I've been in the system for over 20 years. And it was just really a misdemeanor felony for forgery that I did not, make the checks out for. But I've been in this system, and it's, me being in this system, they don't want me to get out of the system. I've been imprisoned in my own, house for like everywhere I moved, they moved me to. So they put me back out there with all the drug dealers and all the, whatever goes on in my apartment building. All the apartment buildings I've been in for the last 20 years has been dreadful for me. Me going through all that stuff, what I did, I know I did something wrong, but I know it's time for me to just get myself back in there because I've been sick a lot. So it's this, the problem is that me trying to get out of this is hard. And it's really hard for me because all the stuff that I have done and did, I punish myself and just isolate myself. So right now, it's me trying to get myself back in where I need to be at. And me with all my health problems and stuff, at my age, I'll be 59 next week, Thursday. And I'm trying my best to survive where I'm living at right now, because right now is that the landlord has not done anything to my apartment since I moved in there. And I've been sick numerous of times. And my caseworkers and stuff like that, there are a lot of things that they have done to me, and I'm just sick and tired of it, And within the pandemic, the landlord had charged me $50 a day for being late. And where I lived at, there was no mailboxes, and I was sick, and I couldn't get anywhere. I had to pay $2,000 for late fees that the studio apartment that I was in was not to be fixed. I mean, I was in a place in last year where my toilet last year in November had flooded for a whole month, and nobody did nothing. I had to call the police to get something done. And I'm just sick and tired of this, and it's because of me being a felon, they put me wherever they want to put me. And I am, tired. I talked about AOD, a friend of mine that I go to ADO meetings and stuff, and she told me to try this out. Now, I'm surrounded by people they love me, but it's just hard to me to just get out the system because they don't want me to get out the system. So I need help real bad. I really need help. So I need to talk to one of you guys to let me know what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll go real quick, and then I'll turn it over to Megan and Cliff, the people on the stage. For the housing issues, I'll have Brief from my office give you a card. Definitely, there's a way that you can determine it. Everybody deserves to live in a place that's safe for them. Like, first off, let's just say this. I don't know the whole story, but we can connect you to some housing advocacies to hopefully help you with that. And then for the legal stuff, I'll turn it back over to Megan and whoever else on the stage want to talk. All right.
Hello.
Is this on? Okay. Hi. I've got some legal resources that might be of benefit to you, particularly Mediate Milwaukee, where trained legal mediators can maybe work as an advocate. Well, they're mediating, so they're not on anyone's side, but they may be able, if there's an opportunity for an open dialogue to occur, that maybe, okay. I can share some paperwork at my resource table with you.
Davis? Okay, yeah. And then I'm just gonna ask the letter get through what she's telling you, and then I'm gonna make sure that y'all connect on a more personal level so she can get the information that you're saying. Is that fine? Yep, thank you. Okay.
Yeah, I'd be
finish,
more than happy to speak with you and provide you with resources. There's a few entities currently in Milwaukee that are, they may not be legal. There's two resources that I'm thinking of right now that might be able to help you find safe and sustainable housing, okay? Sure, I'd be happy to speak with you.
Thank you.
And I can connect with you after the program. Just come talk to me, okay?
Thanks.
Thank you. Somebody over here that had a question.
My question is, so I was under the impression that if you do a certain amount of your time on parole, that you can go back to the court system. I think it was like 3 years. You can go back to the court system and get your time reducted or reduced. So is there any questions about that or any answers, or do anybody know anything about that?
Right, they do have a 75% rule, so you can ask for a reduction. And what courts normally do, because I get a lot of letters almost weekly, they look at the person's in custody status, behavior while they're in custody as well. They do reach out to the victims, as you know, in regards, especially with the new Marcy law. So there's several things that the court takes into consideration before making a decision in regards to it. So it's not automatic, but definitely you can petition the court for that reduction.
I know that I did that when I was in prison. I'm talking about on the streets, after release.
Oh, it has to do with in custody time. For the most part, you would have to get a resentencing done to get rid of any supervision time. Otherwise, the paper has to kind of run its course unless the court resentenced you and gave you kind of a new sentence in regards to street time.
Yeah, because on parole, I asked my probation officer while I was on parole, and there's little information. She's like, well, I'm looking to, I'm going to talk to my supervisor. I was hoping that y'all
Use the
would
mic
know.
so we can hear you.
I said, I had asked my probation officer while I was on parole how I can get off of parole early after doing 3 years. And I was wondering if y'all can have some information about that, far as is that a legitimate rule? Is there something in the statutes or in the laws that we don't know about that we can file about, far as that getting off of parole early while we are being released?
And I'll let them respond, but for the most part, your sentence is your sentence. And then so you have the in custody and out of custody time. So definitely in custody time can be rolled over to out of custody. But unless the courts re-sentence you with a new sentence, you have to do whatever that time you were given. And if anyone else want to add.
I mean, there's the opportunity of early discharge, but
That's what I
that
think he's asking
still is discretionary through the DOC. But
Yes.
I think you do have to use the vehicle of a sentencing modification through the courts. Doyle, do you know?
I think that's what you want.
So back to your question, your probation agent is like the gatekeeper for that. So we can talk afterwards as far as how much time you got left, but to piggyback on the judge and attorney, Megan, your PO will have to answer that for you. Because by law, I can't even look your stuff up because we only can look at our client's caseload. So it's a lot of factors that go in place with that as far as how much time you got, but under Wisconsin law, it's virtually, it's impossible. So if your PO is the best person that you need to talk to when it comes to that.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So make sure you follow back up with your PO and probation officer. She's talking to our supervisors. A lot of times after we think something is difficult or hard, we'll just stop, but that don't mean stop. You can be the first. So there's nothing wrong with that. Continue to see if they can make it happen.
And I'd like to add something to that. I think it's very important that disinformation be done away with, especially as it relates to people in prison and coming out of prison, because like there's so many people with this information that, because that's the prevailing wisdom. I've heard it a million times. Like, hey man, my PO told me if I do 5 years, no infractions, just doing what I need to do, working and sustaining myself out here, that she can just, or he can just eliminate my parole. You know, that's one of the things that I think is, in many ways, it's a saving grace for people out, you know, when we get out. Like if I just do this, because me personally, I have 20 years of parole.
Wow.
20 years of parole, and it's like, yeah, my saving grace was, even now I sit back and be like, if I just continue to do this for 5 or 7 years, then for 13 years I can, you know what I'm saying, live a little bit or something like that. So I think you guys providing information for us, because we still in contact with so many people who are moving under misinformation or a lack of information, that, you know, we can help them out with that. So thank y'all for that.
No, I want to say thank you, and to you all, because you guys know people that are impacted. Have them reach out to us. I know a lot of times they don't really trust the system or really trust the people, but we are having this because we want to get the information out. Like, I'm not doing this because I'm just a supervisor. I'm doing it because it impacted my family and my community as well too. So other individuals, we want to make sure, if you go through the row, you can see over thousands of people who would have needed to be here today, but for whatever reasons they couldn't be. We got to be the voice that carries that back to our community to say, hey, there's some individuals that give up their time freely that want to help us. Let's make sure that we're in the room, or we're staying connected to those people so that we can help our community. So each one teach one. So, you know, if we can all reach out to somebody today or tomorrow or next week and just let them know some of the resources. And like I said, we will have another one in March. We're trying to move around the city every other month, whether it's on the north side, the east side, the south side, and just bringing the information to those individuals instead of them having to come to us as well, too. Any other questions? So I know we had a couple of follow-ups that people wanted to speak with them, individual and stuff of that nature. And so once again, I want to truly thank you all for coming out. We want to make sure that we're always giving back to our community. There are resource tables out in the back as well. We got DHS, the Department of Human Services. We got Behavioral Health. We got the Department of Disabilities. We got Aurora. And what we want to make sure that we do is we're not just having panels where we're talking at you, but we're making it informative, but we're also bringing out resources that help our community out. Because we don't want this to become another panel where people are talking at you, but you're not getting any of the answers that you truly need. We want it to become inclusive of helping you get what you need to be successful, and success looks different for everybody in here. There's no cookie cutter way to say, hey, whatever I did for you, Duran, that'll be good for Sean. That doesn't necessarily help Sean because it helped you, and we need to start looking at people more as individuals and not grouping them together for some of the challenges or issues that they have. And so I'll turn it over to the panel so that we can stop and y'all can individually talk to them as well too, because they are screaming live. I just want to make sure that you leave them with some information. We'll also put it up on their website, how to get in contact with you, but that once again, just tell who you are, what organization or company you're representing here today, and why do you believe having these conversations are valid in our community. And so anybody can go.
Check that out.
Have you come over here because she put it on you. It's fine. I just
We
want to
good?
make sure they saw you. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Again, my name is Minister Khalif Muabel. I'm Executive Director of Breaking Barriers Mentoring, Inc., where we provide reentry services. We provide jobs, housing, peer support circles, peer mediation, and we also, I'm also the president of All of Us are None Wisconsin, where we liberate the voice of the voiceless. So if you want to get into activism, you want to become a national speaker, you want to learn how to do public speaking, you want to learn how to lobby, you want to learn how to do those kind of things, hit us up. You can find me at breakingbarriersmentoring.org. You can find me at WIAOUON.org. Also, our building is over there on Vale R. Phillips, 2821 North Vale R. Phillips Avenue, and we're in Suite 223. And my email is khalifm@breakingbarrierswi.org. And why I believe these conversations are important is because the information has to flow. And like she said, Each one of us should be bringing 5 people because we're all connected to the impacted community. Next time, when we're in a different city or in a different community, let's all commit to bringing 5 people with us. Even the people who aren't directly impacted, if you can bring 5 people that you know would benefit from this conversation, bring them, because it's possibly going to change their lives.
Again, my name is Milton Chiles, Milwaukee County Circuit Court Judge. My actually courtroom is in the level G of the Criminal Justice Facility. So it's the only courtroom that's located in the jail. And feel free, they're public courtrooms, so you can pop in to say hi and speak to me, as well as Supervisor Taylor mentioned, I'm an elected official as well, so you can hold me accountable, as well as any of the other judges that are currently sitting on the bench.
Hello. Hi, I'm Megan Morsey. I work at the Milwaukee Justice Center, the Mobile Legal Clinic, and the Expungement Pardon Clinic. Our email address is expungmke@gmail.com. Our direct clinical services are filled up until the end of the year, so mid-December. However, we will be holding a community classroom on December 7th from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the United Methodist Children's Services over on, I think the address is 3940 West Lisbon Avenue. And we're going to treat it like a law school class and just go line by line through a pardon, and I'll have lawyers and law students there available to answer questions. And I think why I'm involved here and why the conversation and the dialogue here today is so important, because there are thousands of people that are eligible for pardons right now, and they don't even know it. And I think that the time is definitely now to get a pardon application, start filling it out. It's a long game, but you don't get the pardon if you don't get in line. And I really believe that this governor is truly committed. It was just last Thursday, 307 people have been pardoned in the last 2 years and 4 months. And that is more than any governor has ever pardoned anyone, ever. Doyle was second, and that was 286 individuals. Before Doyle left office as governor, he pardoned a lot of people just by a paper review. There are certain crimes that we see in the clinic that aren't even charged anymore. Food stamp fraud and or failure to report income. Those cases they're diverted now. And so individuals are coming that we're not even prosecuting those cases yet. They're still carrying the heavy weight and burden of being a felon. So please spread the word. If you know individuals that have felony convictions on their records, there are so many people that are eligible for pardons right now. And if you aren't, it's also important to know why not and when would you or if you would be eligible. And that's something that our clinic will offer for free.
And just right before Doyle go, and why it's so important to do it now, this isn't about politics, but let's be honest. Governor Evers brought the pardon board back. He is running for re-election. I'm not, telling anybody who to vote for. But if we do get a different governor, and if he does not allow the pardon board, just like it was under Walker, we can go another 4 years of not having anybody get pardoned. So that's why it's so vitally important that we are informed of what's going on and we take advantage of what's before us right now. Because if there's a change in leadership, the whole pardon board can be disassembled like it was before. And those individuals who are waiting will have to wait that next 4 years to see if they're able to even apply and redo the process over again. And it was told it is a tedious process. Anything can get you denied or your information thrown out. So if we know some people that can, or if we can get the information out, it's vitally important that we do it now and not wait. Thank you. Doyle.
All right, I'm Doyle Spurl. I'm not only a probation and parole agent, but I am a preacher. The reason I do this is because I know the plight of African-American men. Like was stated earlier, a lot of people don't know Wisconsin lock up the most black men in America. 1 out of 48, the population of 1 out of 48 are black men, right? We're only population, we are 14%, right? So we the most in prison, right? And so I understand the plight of having that felony, whether it's whether you got a marijuana case or you got a murder case. When you go to them interviews, man, it's still a felony. They don't care if it's a felony A or it's a felony U. To them, it's a black man with a felony. Now, I'm not saying all businesses like that, but I've been there. I sat in those interviews like I mentioned before. So you know how disheartening it is to go to your wife and, have a newborn child to say, hey, baby, I got the job, to kind of find out, oh, you got this, marijuana case on your record. You know what I mean? We can't hire you based on our rules and regulations. But I kept going. I kept pressing out and using an excuse. I know how the system is, right? I'm born in it. One of my favorite books I read, and I challenge anybody to read, is the new Jim Crow, Mass Incarceration in a Colorblind Society. Y'all got to forgive me. I've been up since 5 this morning, right? Been doing ministry work all morning. But so I say that to say this, that we still have to take ownership for our own actions. Because the system is out there, right? But we still have to make the right choices. I'm not justifying one end or the other, but as a man, as a black man that know the plight, it's like if that house is burning in front of us and we go in there and get burnt, we kind of get mad because we got burnt. Well, sometimes you got to learn to avoid that. And so what I try to do is share my story to help the people coming from behind me to avoid those pitfalls. I got somebody that's coming up from Miami that had a felony back in the 90s, and he wants me to help him with his partner. So you know what I got to do as a father, as a mentor, as my personal life? I got to make time for this brother because he's that serious about the pardon. And he found out because of my story. So I shared my story. I exposed myself. I didn't have to. There's a lot of people in my circle didn't even know my story. But when they found out, I get calls from judges, lawyers, all kind of people, law enforcement agencies, and they want to hear my story because it's real. I'm not trying to hide it, and I share it to prayerful that somebody use my story to give them some motivation. Like they said, this room should be packed because we know the plight of the felony system. And on this, Scott Walker had 15,540-something applications. Inquiry. For people that was eligible to get the pardon. 15,000 people, black, white, didn't matter. From up north, south, people paying attorneys. Scott Walker said no. But I didn't use that. I have no ill will against Scott Walker. He came right now, I would shake his hand, God bless you, man of God, and keep on moving. Because he helped motivate me to use my story, like I said, to try to help somebody. And that's all we called to do. Like I said, my family gonna be straight, my daughter gonna be straight, but if I can't go back and help somebody else, then my living is in vain. Me called as a preacher, because that's my life, right, is really hypocritical. You know what I mean? So God bless you. If anybody got questions, I'm here, but I'm telling you I'm hungry because I haven't ate since yesterday at 2:30. Some pizza. Amen. And she owed me a slice of cake too. Amen.
Thank you.
Can we just give another round of applause? I thank you for coming out. Like I said, they'll be available to talk more one-on-one. I know a lot of times sharing really personal information, I try to be really cognitive of that, but I do want you guys to get some of the answers to those in-depth questions that you had and maybe more of a one-on-one. So thank you again for coming out. Look forward to seeing you guys out in March and bringing some other people, and we'll let you know what the destination is. Once again, we're doing this for our community, so join us as we help you.